Picture this, a $10 billion investment, 800 hectares of pristine African coastline, and a port so massive it could handle more cargo than 25 existing ports combined. This isn't just another infrastructure project. This is China's boldest move to reshape global trade forever. Welcome to Bagamoyo, Tanzania, a sleepy coastal town about to become the center of a geopolitical earthquake that will send shockwaves from Beijing to Washington. Once upon a time, Bagamoyo was one of Africa's greatest ports, a bustling hub where ivory, slaves, and spices flowed to distant lands. But history forgot Bagamoyo until China remembered. In 2013, Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete shook hands with Chinese officials in Beijing. That handshake wasn't just diplomacy, it was the birth of Africa's most ambitious port project ever conceived. But here's what makes your jaw drop. When completed, Bagamoyo won't just be big, it will be colossal. We're talking 20 million containers annually. To put that in perspective, that's 25 times more than Tanzania's current largest port handles today. But wait, there's more to this story than meets the eye. Bagamoyo isn't China's only move. Right now, Chinese companies control over 1/3 of all African port developments. From Nigeria's Lekki deep sea port to strategic stakes in Djibouti, China is playing a chess game most of us didn't even know had started. Look at this map. See that line? That's China's Belt and Road Initiative, and it's turning the Indian Ocean into China's highway to global dominance. Every port, every investment, every handshake is a carefully calculated move in what experts call the string of pearls strategy. Think about it. 90% of global trade moves by sea. Control the ports, and you control the flow of everything from oil to smartphones to the morning coffee in your cup. But here's where it gets interesting and terrifying for some. These aren't just commercial ports. Military experts warn these could be dual-use facilities. Translation? Today's cargo ship terminal could be tomorrow's naval base. In 2019, Tanzania's President John Magufuli suddenly hit the brakes on Bagamoyo, calling the Chinese terms exploitative. The project stalled. Beijing wasn't happy. But in 2025, something changed. The bulldozers are back. Work has officially resumed with a fresh $9.5 million budget allocation. China is back in the game, and this time, they're not taking no for an answer. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't necessarily a villain story. For Tanzania, Bagamoyo could be transformational. Jobs for hundreds of thousands. A special economic zone modeled after Shenzhen. The dream of becoming Africa's Dubai might actually come true. But look at the bigger picture. Kenya's Mombasa port, currently East Africa's crown jewel, could be left in the dust. Other regional powers are watching nervously as China reshapes the economic map of an entire continent. And in Washington and Brussels, alarm bells are ringing. Because when China controls critical infrastructure, it doesn't just move cargo, it moves influence, leverage, and power. By 2045, if everything goes to plan, Bagamoyo will stretch across 10 miles of coastline. Massive container cranes will work 24/7. A 561-kilometer railway will snake across East Africa, carrying goods to and from the interior. This won't just be a port, it will be the beating heart of a new economic empire. And here's the kicker, China isn't just buying ports. They're buying the future. As Western powers focused on military interventions and sanctions, China quietly built relationships with checkbooks and construction crews. But here's what might shock you the most. This isn't really about Tanzania. It's not even about Africa. This is about you. Every time you buy a phone, a car, or even a t-shirt, you're part of this story. China is building a trade network so comprehensive, so integrated, that by the time you realize what happened, it will be too late to compete. While Western nations debated and delayed, China built. While we argued about environmental impact studies, they poured concrete. While we worried about the optics, they secured the economics. So the next time someone asks you why China bought Africa's biggest port, remember this. They didn't just buy a port. They bought influence over a continent of 1.4 billion people. They bought control over trade routes worth trillions. They bought the future while everyone else was still arguing about the past. The question isn't whether China's strategy will work. Looking at Bagamoyo rising from the coastal plains of Tanzania, the question is, what happens to the rest of us when it does? The game has changed. The question is, are you playing?